Hi guys, hi everyone in Facebook land. I just wanted to do another video as I promised. I know a lot of you actually took the time this morning to watch my prediction video for the year that we are in now, 2020. And I have promised you all that I would do a video prediction for the decade to come. So perfect time to do that. We're in a bubbling year, as I mentioned, from 2020 to 2030 is going to be a massive, big deal and a life-changing, a global changing decade of a rebirth. So I wanted to throw some predictions out there for the decade. I wanted to do that specifically because like I was saying in a previous video, that when psychics get visions, it's not like someone comes up to you and they're handing you a piece of paper or they're whispering in your ear direct information. It is like having a snippet of a 1 second scene of a video and another second scene of another video or a movie, and you have to answer questions like when, who, what, where, how it's made, and all of that stuff. So it's quite intense trying to piece these puzzles together. Afternoon, lovely. So it's really interesting to get them and then see how they play out. But I do think that it's important to make a prediction video for the decade that gives it a broader spectrum of when things can play out, because I have a lot of things coming up in 2020, but also further down the track, they're coming to fruition before 2030, which is going to be a climactic year. So the next decade is huge. I'll jump right to it, guys. So basically, I have a split happening. Over the next decade, next 10 years. You'll find that there is a bit of a turning point. So I keep getting like, we're like here, okay? We're at the infancy and the rebirth of some real tumultuous energy. It's like musical chairs, everyone's standing up and running around, but then when the music goes off, there's not going to be enough chairs, so someone's going to be, the one who misses out. And what I'm meaning by that is there is countries or a pool of countries that is going to miss out on, whether it's the financial prosperity of this decade, whether it's the sustainability, technology, or the food. There's food, but I feel like there's going to be like a little brother that really kind of comes out not on top from this decade. And I feel like it's more around 2027, 2028 are the real climactic end of years for several countries, where that it's such a tumultuous energy that they have gone through in the previous years from this year onwards, that they are in such dire need, and their country has, or their regions, and there's several countries actually have such strain on them that they actually have a redrawing of borders. So like back in the day, what would have happened was, what was Iran or Iraq called before? Persia, sorry. Persia. So Persia was once upon a time known as Persia, but now I think it's Iran and Iraq, right? Or the Middle East. Please forgive me if I get that wrong. I don't mean any offense. But it's about redrawing of countries and the borders and merging maybe several countries together in order to enhance that region's prosperity and kind of pool their resources. And that's coming through from a strain and some real energy push-pulls throughout the decade and climacting around 2027, 2028. So that's what I have. I do, if I was to say where, I feel like it's more in the European area. I feel like it's more European, Middle East, that space around there. That's what I'm being told. It's not America. It's not, Australia or New Zealand or anywhere in Africa, lower regions, but more Mid-East. Okay, so I do have, I did say that there's going to be a global financial crisis this year bubbling away, but I have the extensive energy going throughout the decade. So there's a GFC happening, bubbling away. I have country after country after country going into recession. And I see that the stock market will fall, but also the property market will fall. So this could be really good in a positive way if you're ready to seize that. If you're not and you're looking to sell, obviously you're not going to get bang for your buck in a market crash. So be aware of that. But I do have the recovery time, so for the market prices to kind of pick itself up around 24, 25, starting to even back out for what it could be or should be to get more momentum. But I don't have a full recovery throughout the decade for sure. I don't have that happening, but definitely more momentum happening. I'm having some real convictions about United States trialing it's weird, like trialing some kind of how would I describe this? It's not a bubble city or a bubble town, but it's like trialing a self-sustaining township. Maybe that's the best way to describe it, but self-sustaining township. And I feel like they're trialing it with people who are homeless or people who are at a disadvantage, possibly even refugees or immigrants coming in. I feel like there are pockets, and there may be 1 or 2 or 3 trials of this self-sustaining townships. And that's going to actually relieve the pressures on its economy and its welfare system. I see that being a real sense of urgency, especially around 2023, but throughout the decade, I see it being progressed and really kind of altered and adjusted as it needs to happen. So I feel like that's a real crux happening this decade. We know we've got big changes in the earth this decade, big stuff happening there, massive technology moving around, and lots of scientific discoveries. Now, I'm seeing that for this decade, there will be a global scientific community actually forming official process together. So what I mean by that is like every country actually forming an alliance, like putting in, whether it's money, whether it's, donating resources, whether it's scientists or doctors or whoever. I feel like there is a massive global scientific community being developed, and having an actual organization name and have it being based somewhere. I feel like it's cold. I feel like there's snow outside. I'm cold when I think about it. I want to put a jacket on. So it could even be somewhere in isolation, like Antarctica or something like that, or maybe some cold country in Europe. But I feel like it's quite somewhere where it's quite neutral. So it could be Switzerland or Sweden, So yeah, the massive conglomerate and support and unity happening on a global front on the scientific scale. I do have the Pope. So you look, if it doesn't happen this year in 2020, this decade, this Pope ain't seeing this decade out. So there is some stepping back, and I see a new Pope coming through. I keep seeing that it's a different type of Pope. So not just because, and I keep getting the word conduit, and I don't mean like the way, but I feel like it's the new Pope that takes over from the one that's in power now, in the position now in 2020, that he is going to have really different perspective. I think he may even be more advanced or scientific of mind. I think he's got a different background, so maybe he didn't start out as Catholic. I don't know, but I just feel like he's got a different background to every other Pope that that fell before him. So interesting. I have some massive changes happening in food, in the production of food, and sustainability. So I'm having massive shortages, but I feel like there's going to be a real move towards getting closer. So even on a global scale, it's not going to be massive amounts of importation. So we're going to, import lychees from this part of the region, or get mangoes from here, or all of that stuff. I feel like it's going to be really kind of coming back to the basics of growing your own vegetables, or at least going more towards who's my local farmer, who's my local producer. And I feel like it's going to be less reliant on money changing hands around food produce. I feel like it's more like I have kale, you have corn, how about we make a trade? I feel like it's really kind of come back to the basics, and more organic stuff going to come more in the mainstream as well. And that I have around food stuff. Definitely a shift around the food away from meat eating, or at least meat alternatives getting picked up so much more. Seeing that happen massively. I almost feel like there's a scale tipping towards the end of the decade, 2028, 2029, we're actually got like 50% of the world being vegetarian, or at least semi-vegetarian. So I feel like it's a So massive, 50%, that's a huge number considering there's not that many now. But I'm seeing massive changes in the way we use our body. Seeing mass-produced, and I think I'm going to invest in this actually, mass-produced superfood powders in powder forms, like spirulina, kale, all that kind of stuff. I'm seeing a lot of that stuff becoming part of the everyday diet rather than, oh, I'm just needing to be really proactive in this season. So I see it being really widely accepted on a daily basis by the average Joe. Wonderful. Okay, so I do have a war starting. Dare I say the word war? Because it's not going to be like the wars that we've seen in the past. This is the way this war is fought out is really different. It's really unique, and it is a very long war. So even though it comes about this decade, I don't see it ending this decade. So what I've written here is there is a war coming about, and it's bubbling. United States is involved, and there's 5 countries specifically that kind of kick it off, but it will involve and kind of pull in, the cousin countries to get involved through the ally system. I think that a lot of the other countries, allies or not, don't want a bar of it. I feel like it's kind of tit for tat bullshit, really, and that they don't really want a bar of it, but they will because of alliances to some degree. But I get like a shaking of heads, like we really shouldn't be wasting our time and energy on this stuff. But I see it kind of evolving in the way that it will be played out in a way that other wars have never been played out, and it's not a battle or a war underground or hidden. We'll be aware of it. The everyday Joe will be aware of it, but it will be just fought in a really different way. You're not gonna see soldiers marching on a battlefield or even tanks and stuff like that. I feel like it's going to be more so in the air played out and more so on a micro scale. So we may be talking about some warfare of a different kind rather than guns and men and soldiers battling. It may be actually like a bit of an underhanded warfare. So maybe through some illness using that, or some microorganisms, maybe robotics, but in the sky as well. I don't feel like it's going to be something we've ever seen before, and I feel like the world will be shaking its head like, can you guys just stop? I see it happening for 25 to 30 years. So it's a long one, and it's long drawn out. It's a slow burn. And I do see it ending around the end of that, so 25 to 30 years, ending with new leadership and the new generation taking hold of those countries to just go, you know what, we're just done. Let's just call it day. That's what I have. Lovely. I have some information coming through for this decade. I think maybe more so around the earlier parts of the decade, so 2021, 2022, 23, talking about solar flares. I feel like there's going to be a lot of talk about the sun, and I feel like there's going to be some real watching and observing the sun and its movements in and out, and almost like maybe they may discover that the sun breathes and has cycles of its own somehow, or there's discussion about solar flares as far as I can see. So I see that world leaders on the global scale, especially around 2024, I see a big year in this decade for the world leaders to kind of come together and form not United Nations, but something similar to that. It's a new one they haven't done yet, but it's like a united, like for example, it's going to be like a United Nations for global action, blah, 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 for climate change and sustainability, blah, 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 all that stuff. But it's the world leaders on the global scale coming together and going, you know what? Yeah, our bad. We actually probably should have actioned this like 30 years ago. Now we're really being pushed. And I see some actual stuff happening. Probably not as much as what is needed, but I do see movement happening due to either realizations on their behalf or pressures coming from their people. So I see even if countries don't, I see eye to eye on a lot of issues. I see them at least agreeing on that and going, you know what, we'll deal with the planet first, and then we'll talk about what we don't agree with later. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Italy go under water. I see a flood happening. So a big flood. I think it's going to take a while for Italy to recover, maybe 5 to 10 years for it to get its back on its feet. That country may be one of the countries that become amalgamated, for a lack of a better word, into that region that I just mentioned before. Okay, I'm seeing industrialized food systems ending, the global changing, and so there's basically like, you know, you've got the crust of something, right? And the outside is falling away. And what do you have? You have the new inside layer. That's what's happening in this decade. So it's like things are kind of starting to bubble and crack, and now we have to peel those old layers back to see what the new beginning holds for us. And that's what this decade is all about. I do see a big awakening. On a really positive note, I see it personally for me too, that it's a big awakening for global people global scale, to become really in tune with their own intuition, to becoming more aware of the fact that, you know, there's so much more than what we think and what we see on the human level. And I see so much more being investigated to the metaphysics and the psychic side of things, and past lives and crystals and their effect on people. And I see this being a really great thing, and it really being a positive part of our lives, which is great, because that's what people should be doing, really connecting with their own intuition, becoming your own psychic, and learning how to do that is a really big deal. They're telling me it's the dawn of a new era from 2020, and this is the birth of that new cycle coming through. What else do I have here for you for this decade? So, weird prediction, and I'm happy to put my name to it, and let's see if this comes about. But I think Amazon, the company Amazon, and I spoke about the years for 2020 for Amazon, and that's a whole different kettle of fish. But for the decade, I want to say Amazon is pouncing, it's getting ready. I feel like it's poised as a company to get into the housing market. I think it's going to get into some kind of real estate. I think it's going to, whether it's, hotels, an Amazon hotel, or whether it's an actual resort that's run by Amazon. I don't know, but I'm seeing it actually involved with dwelling in real estate and actually purchasing buildings to run and to get in that kind of thing. I think it's got its eye on a few large prospects. So watch Amazon, watch that space. I think in 100 years from now, we're all going to say like Kmart what or eBay what. I think it's going to be really odd, because no one's ever heard of these things. And then, well, Amazon, oh yeah, that's the one that we've got. So I think a lot of other commercial things will fall away, and Amazon's going to be the big wig. So, which is, yeah, okay. It's not good for little people, I tell you what, little individual shops. But yeah, I'm seeing big things happen for Amazon. If you're interested in investing, have a go, but I take no responsibility. Lovely. The last thing I want to say is that okay, so there's two things actually. That a new one's coming through now. There's going to be some new information happening, big discoveries around Mars, and I'm talking like big stuff. So what you need to watch Mars. This decade is huge in outer space and space travel and space developments. But Mars is going to be big. I feel like there's going to be massive investigations or news coming from Mars that will affect the future of humanity. I'm also getting that obviously that cryptocurrency is going to be a big deal and more broadly accepted. I'm being told that by 2026, 2027, it's actually going to be the largest, the currency of the world, and money in cards are going to be kind of like the secondary use. So I feel like cryptocurrency is going to be taking the lead by the end of the decade. I'm also being told that there's going to be a lot of rezoning and a lot of redesigning of national parks and recreational areas in the world to protect the land and stopping development. So I feel like we're really going to be moving up rather than out. So a lot of the places in the world are going to have a wide range of protection over them. Have some big changes happening for the royals, but I did say about that. I actually think that Charlie, I'm going to say it so casually, don't I? Prince Charles may pass towards the end of the decade. I feel like he's going to pass shortly after his mother. Really, you know, I don't think he's going to make the decade. What else can I tell you? Yep, I think that's all I've written. I think that's all I've written. Lovely. Well, if you guys have any questions about what the decade may hold, I'm happy to open up for maybe 2 minutes, and then I'm going to call it a day. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about what the decade may hold, look, make sure it's a global question. Don't say, well, I get married in the next decade. Okay, so let's keep it really open for everyone else as well. I might just see if anything else is coming while I'm waiting for other questions. Okay, so another thing, in this next decade, personal or private ownership of a vehicle will become very, really scaled back is what I'm getting. I'm seeing that scale back quite a lot, and that, you know, kind of one vehicle being owned by 5 or 6 people or even up to 10 people will not be a weird thing. It'll be, well, you know, so-and-so needs it for here, and I feel like there'll be, you know, a bunch of people buying into a vehicle or at least leasing a vehicle, very, very climate-friendly vehicle. And then I see the fact that that's a shared vehicle for, you know, very practical reasons. I see that happening and becoming the norm, and not just one person contributing to the vehicle. Yeah, I'm seeing some big power stations and coal stations shutting down, quite a lot of mines. I'm seeing specifically in Africa and in Australia, some massive mining industries really taking a tumble in this decade, being closed down. I'm seeing red tape around and basically being abandoned until people can figure out how to rezone that area and use it for something productive. So, all right. Oh, good. Okay. Lovely. So, Hayley, hello, darling. Will the fires ease up? Yes, they will. I'm happy to say they will. Actually have that happening pretty soon. But I do think there's going to be all the fires get under control by maybe March, April this year, 2020. I have it getting under control, and then I have another flare up around end of July, August. It's not going to be anywhere as severe, but it'll still trigger us to kind of action quickly. But yeah, I'm seeing it definitely will come under control. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my dog's barking. All right. So yes, so Dina, obviously you didn't get to watch my 2020 or even the beginning of this video, but if you go back and watch the beginning of this video, I did answer that question for you. I did predict the global financial crisis, and I gave you some time frames. I would suggest, if anyone's keen to know details about the global financial crisis that's coming, I would suggest you go onto my video that I did this morning about predictions for 2020, because it's all in there. All right, guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope that answers some questions for the decade. It's definitely going to be a very spiritual and transformative decade. But remember, transformation can be challenging when you're in it. When you look out from the other side, on the other side of the fence, it's fantastic and it needed to happen. But when you're in it, it can feel crappy. So hang on to your socks. Remember, practicing self-care is important for keeping you awesome and relaxed and calm, because when you're settled, you can deal with all that stuff that's happening on the global scale, and there's going to be a lot. So remember, if you need a psychic reading to get you through, go to missyrivers.com. I love to connect to you all. I love you all so much. I hope you have a fantastic day. Love from my heart chakra to yours. Please share this video as much as you like. Bye.